on this episode of Couch Conversations.
Health in life and leadership is transparency, vulnerability, being honest. People want authentic leaders.
Welcome to Couch Conversations, a podcast for women who want to chat about real life issues. Hi, I'm Courtney B. Riley. We're talking about what it means to be a woman of God today, how to find purpose in life, and how to deal with tough conversations. So grab a cup of coffee and join us on the couch for some good conversation. All right. Welcome, everyone that's listening. This is Courtney Riley. I'm here with the Women of Influence podcast. And today our topic is one of my favorites, actually, so far, seat at the table. And we have a special guest speaker or guest on the podcast today, Lisa Potter. So thanks for being here, Lisa.
Oh, thank you, Courtney.
Yeah. And Lisa is the author of The Collective Journey. And I know her through my church and friends and things of that nature. But I also attended her Aurora conference that you put on, Lisa, this past year. It was my first time coming, and it really is what kind of triggered this topic. My background went through a lot of rejection and like many women, and just that feeling of not being included or not being enough. And so that your message at that Roar conference was so freeing, and it was like spot on, when it's anointed, it's it's anointed because it's just for you. And so that's really what I wanted to talk about, just the importance of a seat at the table. It's something near and dear to my heart, that all women feel that they have a seat at his table and at the table that we're all sitting at as we do his work. And so tell us a little bit about you to start, and the collective journey and all the things that you have going on.
Yeah, I would love to. Thanks again for having me, Courtney. It's been a pleasure to meet you and get to know you better. And so glad you enjoyed Roar Conference. That is one of the things I do. I'm the author of The Collective Journey, which is an invitation to go deeper in your life and leadership. And the book actually came out of graduate degree research that I did. And it's, you can pick the book up and just read the book and do the things, but it's also developed to be done in a group setting, in a mentoring relationship. So that's kind of what my heart is. I love the collective journey. I always tell people, I love what I do, but I'll be doing the collective journey for the rest of my life. That's my DNA. But what I do, I'm the executive director of Women Who Lead here in the Potomac Ministry Network, which is Maryland, DC, Virginia, and part of West Virginia. And the Roar Conference is part of that, which you attended. And Roar Conference is for every woman. And we kind of just developed a language, a culture, a place where women could come for the conference. We have breakout sessions, main sessions. And we just like to ask the women, what are you dreaming? What are you seeing God doing in your life? And how can we come alongside of you and make that happen? So other than that, I'm a wife and a mother of a beautiful daughter who just got married. She's 35, son-in-law Brandon. And then my son Andrew and his wife live in California. So, and we have a golden retriever, Brady, who,
is the other child.
Now that I don't have kids at home, I love on him all the time. So that's a little bit about me.
Lucky guy. Well, I'm glad you're here. So, collective journey, what's the backstory in a nutshell? Like what brought you to that? What led to that?
Yeah. So I have always felt called to leadership and I really fleshed that out through ministry leadership. And as a woman in that realm, it was often difficult for me. And I, to be honest with you, I'm 58. So when I was coming up like a 20-something, there were not a lot of women around me doing what I felt God was calling me to do. And so I lacked in mentorship and community, went through a struggle with depression. And from that was challenged to get healthier, And so I always tell people that the collective journey is a response to the things I wish I had known. But it's also based on research of what women need. And so it has 4 foundations to it: core self, communion, calling, and community. And the first 2 are inner focused, the last 2 are outer focused. But the first two that you go to on this pathway of deepening your life and leadership is asking yourself things like, how is it with my soul today? And getting our inner life. It's that iceberg principle where we see everybody sees the tip of the iceberg. Like when I came on today, I know they're not seeing our faces, but you were like, you look good today. But underneath it all, I may not be doing well, and those are the things we can hide. And so health in life and leadership is transparency, vulnerability, being honest. People want authentic leaders. They want leaders who will be honest that they've been through the hard times, but they've been overcomers. And then communion is basically the power of your story. And we talk about how our story, our past pains often become the passions that God uses us in because he's a redemptive God. And then we do calling. We do a lot of steps through. I write a lot about it in that foundation, figuring out your calling and vision and value statements. And then community. And I end with how important our tribe is. As women, we need to find our tribe. Tribes are generational, and the importance of all of that. So that's kind of the heart of it.
It sounds like, I hate to say it, but it's true. It sounds like everything that you're writing about in leadership is so countercultural, right?
Yes.
I mean, from the, I think authenticity and vulnerability are thrown around like buzzwords, but the real, am I doing okay?
Mm-hmm.
How's my soul? And even the honesty and even the having a real tribe, because it's not just having a lot of followers on a social media feed or having people that know you and see past you might look good today for a video, what's really going on. So I love that.
And we do like in the last pathway that you go through in the collective journey community, like I give an intentional assignment to develop your community and ask the question of who are your heroes, living and dead? And, to make you pause and think about, who are my heroes? I ask the question, who are the mentors in your life? And maybe if that ends up being a blank, then that's a place you need to develop in your community as a female leader. I talk about people in our lives that hold us accountable. Can you think of people in your life that are doing that? And if you can't, then you need to develop people that you can trust that will hold you accountable with your dreams, with your passions, with your life. And then inner circle, like Jesus had Peter, James, and John. We see that in the Garden of Gethsemane, where he took them a little closer than the other 9 disciples. And Jesus said, you can watch me as I travail about this very important decision. You can watch me cry, but not everybody gets a front seat picture to that in our lives. So, and then I ask, who are you mentoring? Like, so if somebody's passed the baton to you, who are you going to pass the baton to? And it's a really vital part of leadership to have community around us.
Yeah, I actually, as you were saying that about the inner circle, I just had one of the other podcasts we just recorded. We had someone talking about appropriate vulnerability and, how it's important to be vulnerable, but making sure that it's used appropriately depending on, as you lead people. There's a level of vulnerability that different people, based on their maybe spiritual or emotional maturity or their role in your life and yours and theirs. Sounds like that's probably part of that determining who is that inner circle.
Yes.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
would you?
And it's
Oh, go ahead.
important.
No,
Yeah.
no, no.
No, I was just going to say it's very important. And I love the idea of the levels of vulnerability because
Mhm.
Jesus told everything to God, his Father. He didn't tell everything to the three, but he told everything to his heavenly Father. And so in using his example, we can see how community is really important to the health and of our life and leadership.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's tough if you're naturally a vulnerable person. And I know for me, I for a long time I was a share it all, wear it on your sleeve, and I felt like real. I was wanting to be vulnerable because I had experienced the lack of that in the business world and in my beginning of my career. And so I kind of went from this side all the way to the other and
Yeah.
overly vulnerable. And I actually was in one of the classes in the cohort at Ascent that you were doing. And there was a book, I think it was The Four Dimensions of Leadership. Is that right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, by Jenny Catron. Yeah.
it was right on time. I recommend that book. It was just really, to me, it came at a season of I was trying to navigate dynamics of relationships in my business and in my just relationships in general. And that was a really eye-opening book at a good time. So I wanted to ask what for women that are listening, because I know in my past I've struggled with finding that tribe, building that tribe. For women that don't have that, or they recognize, that yes, I do need people to mentor, and I need people to mentor me, like rungs on a ladder. But what do they do if they don't have that? They're missing that. Where do they start? What's some practical?
Yeah, and I do think we need to be intentional about it. Another book that I love is How Remarkable Women Lead, and it's McKinsey, database research company did this research, and they talk about sponsors, like for female leaders, sponsorship is very important. That's people who talk about us when we're not in the room. And we often get promotions because of the sponsors in our life. I hear a lot of people say, well, I don't like networking. I don't like, doing that. I just think it seems so, I don't know, like pretentious. Like look at me and here are the things I don't want to do that. But the research is out there for female leaders, and the healthiness of us is that we need that in our life. And so I always start off with practically it takes intentionality. I've ended up a lot of places and I was like, how did I get here? And later I'll find out it was because of someone who spoke about me when I wasn't in the room. I had coffee with them at a conference I was at or an event, admired them from afar, and was just kind of like, I wonder if she would have coffee with me. And in having coffee with me, she learned more about me. And then we became friends. And then a lot of the doors that opened for me were because of her sponsorship. I think doing the collective journey, like the resources that I give, like the network page, is really important because practically you have to be intentional about building your network, but you also have to be intentional about and honest about the practicality of filling out a paper like that and being honest about where your blanks are. And like I had one young woman I was mentoring and she was like, called me Miss Lisa. And she was like, Miss Lisa, I have like all of these people. I have like 12 people who hold me accountable, but I have no one in my inner circle. And I just started doing a coaching with her. And I said, well, let's coach you through who in that 12 you can move down to that more vulnerable place in your life. And we were intentional about doing that. And the light bulb went on for her. And she then became intentional in creating a deeper relationship with several of those people that are already like on her team and in her tribe.
Right.
So it's practical things of like, you can sit around all day and say, I'm lonely, or those doors don't open for me, or I don't have this, or I don't have that. But research tells us that, and the Bible tells us, let's just get on that. Like, we can't be like, being alone isn't something that we were even created to do. I love to talk about how Adam, he was used to just talking to the animals, but when Eve was created, she's always been in community. And the feminine side of us has always been built for community, for others.
That's good.
Yeah.
I've never, isn't that cool how you,
right? It's like a light bulb. Yeah.
Well, I mean, and I thought you were going to say that it wasn't good. I was just thinking like God calls, that was the first thing he said wasn't good. It was that he was alone.
Exactly.
With people. So, but I hadn't thought of it that way. You're right. Eve, as soon as from the moment she was in existence, was in community.
She was in community with God. She was in community with Adam, the garden, the animals.
And it's so interesting to learn about like the way our brains are even wired differently. Like, I mean, even how neurons and everything, like it consists of different setup of matter. Like,
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think intentionality, that's been my word kind of for 2022, not planned, but just realizing that things that we want to see come to fruition, being intentional about them. They don't just happen, No.
And we have to build a network, a tribe. I share a story in the collective journey. Like the first time I realized I had a seat at the table, or I was part of a tribe bigger than me. And I was a young girl. I grew up with grandparents who had a farm, and it was that time of the season at the end of summer. We were, what my grandma would say, putting up the corn. And my mom only had a sister. So it was just the two girls in the family. And each of those sisters had a girl. So there were like different generations sitting around the table putting up the corn. And I'm the youngest grandchild out of 6. So there's 4 boys and 2 girls. And the oldest is a girl and the youngest grandchild. And I'm the youngest. And so they were always trying to protect me. And I had not graduated to using a knife, so to speak, to cut that corn off the cob. And my job was to put it all in the freezer bags. But that day when I showed up at Grandma's house, she handed me a knife. And I remember all day they worried about, like my Aunt Shirley was concerned I was going to cut my finger off and I was going to do this. But when I finally put up my first dozen, cut them off the cob without injuring myself,
you made it.
Yeah, they cheered me on. My grandmother came over and gave me one of these shoulder squeezes and smiled at me like, you did it, girl. And she didn't verbalize that, but I have that memory in my mind of that was the day that I realized I belong to this family. I belong to this tribe, and it's generational. It goes deeper than just me. I don't stand alone, and I'm a better person because I sit around the table with these generations of women who have gone before me. And we have to learn to take that into other realms in our life. Some of us weren't granted good memories like that as a child, but it's not that we just put on a hardened shell and say, well, I don't need that because I never had it. Scripture tells us, research tells us, our brains are wired for community. We're better together. Tribes are generational. I always feel like I'm a bridge builder because for my age, like I have a daughter who's 35, and I love that younger generation, but I also love my mom's generation. Like I stand between these two amazing generations, and I learned so much from both of them. We need each other.
Yeah, absolutely. What a neat story. I never would have pictured you shucking corn or cutting corn. But
yeah.
one of the things that stood out to me too in that story was the importance of them cheering you on. I think sometimes, I tend to talk a lot about making space for people at a table or encouraging women because like you said, my story, it shines light on that. That's where my passion comes from. I want women to feel included. I want everyone to know they have a seat at a table at the table, but I think sometimes I glance over the importance of pausing and intentionally, right? There's that word, recognizing and cheering on the other women at the table for their accomplishments. You don't even realize sometimes how much that means for them to feel seen, for you to take time for them or to recognize something. That is like a seed that could to you, it's just something that's said or takes a few minutes, but it could be life-changing to someone.
Oh, yeah. And it is life-changing and I think if we're working with teams, we're working with people like in our jobs as women leaders, it's important for us to even know like what are our love language gifts. Like mine is words of affirmation and acts of service, but that's not everybody around my table. Right. So be careful that like you go girl is important or that was great. Good idea, cheering you on. But even if we can enlighten ourselves to have the conversations of maybe it's a gift, maybe it's an act of service, maybe it's, what is it? Spending time with them, just to let them know, like, you're important and you're important to the team. And, as your boss or as the person who's leading the team, I just want you to know that. And come alongside of you. So that's a very important aspect of it for sure, especially for female leaders.
Yeah. Well, what can, for women listening, any last word of advice or encouragement that you're dying to share with them? And then we'd love to hear how women can get in touch with you, learn more about the collective journey. So,
I would just say, one of the things that I love to tell women who are leading and those who don't know that they have all this potential is just to dream big with God, to follow Jesus, to make sure that you're following God, you're dreaming with God, and that you're not limiting yourself. I was a quiet, insecure girl, but I remember just being willing to take some risk and step out and do what God has called me to do. And I've not always done it as well as I'm probably doing it now. So allow yourself grace to fail and get yourself back up. Surround yourself with people who will tell you, you go girl. And if you've got people in your life that aren't telling you that and aren't cheering you on. And sometimes we got to look at that as well in our community and kind of let go of some things. But
I will second that, dreaming big with God. I mean, what's neat is I just add to that, dream big and then relinquish the responsibility for the outcome of it. Because what's so cool is that when you're in step with him, you're making your plans, but you're letting him direct each step. You do the work, but you don't have to be responsible for the outcome. The growth of the fields when you're watering them and planting the seeds, if he's told you to, that's on him and it'll flow, So I love it. Where can people learn more about Collective Journey or get in touch with you and follow all the things you're doing?
So we have a website, thecollectivejourneybook.com. So you can go to thecollectivejourneybook.com and find out more about it. The book is available on Amazon. So it's in audio form as well, Kindle. And then my website just went up. It's live. So my author website is up, lisalpotter.com. So add that L in there, lisalpotter.com. And you can find us on Instagram at The Collective Journey Book. and Facebook at The Collective Journey Book, and find me on both of those as Lisa Potter. So, yeah.
Lots of ways to get in touch with you. And when is Roar? Remind me, Roar 2023. Is it March?
It's in March. Yes, it is. So we're having that again at Trinity in Lutherville. We've already sold about 750 tickets. So our venue will only allow us to have 1,500. We do feel like we will sell out. So you can go to pmnwomenwholead.com and go to our events, Roar Conference, and everything to register. Registration's up. We also have video announcements, things you can upload, download to show to get more people to come with you. But it is in March, and I'm trying to look it up right now. I don't want to give the wrong date.
Yeah.
It's the 24th and 25th of 2023.
Okay. Perfect. 24th and 25th of March 2023. I will be there. I actually got a group. So they're group sales too. So if you're listening and you've got a team of women you lead, or, that inner circle you're trying to build, it's a great, I took a couple friends last year and we're taking a bigger group this year, but there's nothing better than, having a sleepover with your people.
That's right.
Worshiping and pressing in and learning, and then being able to go back and eat and be together, just sharing and connecting. You go real deep. So it was awesome. One of my favorite experiences. So.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Well, we work really hard all year to make it a great experience for the women who come. And we have such tremendous stories, testimonies from it, women who are doing crazy things because they came to Roar Conference. And we were asked the question, what if you could do anything? What would you do?
I'm telling you, part of the whole Women of Influence and, our, and as we wrap, our, core values for Women of Influence, our inclusivity. That is one of our big points, is we want women to know that without tradition and religion, you can just love Jesus and love each other. And you can do that outside of the walls of four walls of a church also. We love our church. We love Lighthouse where we are. And we, a lot of the Women of Influence have an awesome home church, but it's neat to be able to just remind women you can love each other and love Jesus at a winery, at a bonfire, at a cookout, and we do all those. And a big part of that came out of what I was just reminded of from the Lord at that conference. So,
that's great.
Yeah,
I love it.
Testimony for you. Well, thanks for being here today. I appreciate you taking time and sharing, and I just really appreciate you making this work.
Oh, thank you, Courtney, and cheering you on. So,
thank you.
You're a great leader, and may God bless you in all of your endeavors. And for all the women of influence that are listening today, cheering them on as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Lisa.
Yes, thank you.
Hey, thanks for listening to this episode of The Couch Conversations. I hope you're inspired and ready to tackle the day knowing you're loved and have a purpose. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and I'd love it if you left us a rating and a review so more people can join us on this journey. We'll see you next time.